Habari Gani. Habari Gani. The fifth day of Kwanzaa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, April. Habari Gani. It's the fifth day of Kwanzaa. Happy to be with you here again. Yeah. Hope everyone's week is going well. Hope some of you have had some time off to relax, reflect, rejuvenate. I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. Yeah. Habari Gani. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, this has been an interesting week. Doing these principles, I always learn. You know, I am a lifelong learner. One of the things I loved about working at Fresno State and working with students, I learned so much from them. I'm an educator at heart, but one of the things I know is that if we are in tune with children, with youth, with young adults, so much we get to glean from them and learn from them. Some of what I'm going to share with you today is from young adults that I have met along the way, and one that I birthed that I want to share some things with you. Want to make sure I had some of the items that I wanted to be sure to share with you today. I'm going to wait a bit and let folks get on. I'm going to share with you about an African American art form that was developed as a result of Kwanzaa. I became aware of the art form probably in about 2008. But I don't think it sunk in with me until really just a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, that it was Kwanzaa related. And when you hear the name of the art form, you're going to go, Dr. Francine, really? You didn't get it? Just from the name of the art form? Yeah, no, I didn't get it. So I'm going to tell you about this art form and hope that maybe some of you will give it a try. And if you do give it a try, and if you'd like to, post it in the chat of today's live feed. Particularly on Facebook, that'd be a great place to do it. But if the space allows on Instagram, that would be great too. I'm pretty sure it will for what this is. So I know I'm keeping you hanging to talk about what it is, but I'll talk about it in a bit. Again, welcome. Habari Gani. Habari Gani. This is the fifth day of Kwanzaa, and I have been doing these live feeds each day, live at 5. I did it last year, and then several of you reached out to me and said, are you going to do that again this year? And I decided, yes, I would. I almost did it just because there's a lot going on in my world, but your encouragement allowed me to do it. Hey, niece, Good to know you're there. My niece, April Day. Yeah. So 2 Aprils. The Aprils were the first ones on Facebook. April Jackson and April Day. I love it. Yeah. I hope you all are safe where you are. Not sure, there's so much going on, not only in terms of the pandemic, but weather. So everyone, I hope you're safe and hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well. We're doing well here. We're grateful. I'm very grateful that we're healthy. Um, some of you who follow my oldest daughter, her professional name is Cici Olisa. And Olisa actually comes from my husband's family. Olisa is their family name. And she actually had COVID. But she did well. It was pretty much like having a cold for her. So we're grateful for that. She's vaccinated and had a booster. And so being so far away from us in New York, so we didn't have to hop on a plane to go and care for her. We're grateful. We're grateful. I know different people feel different ways about the vaccine, but I am confident that the fact that she's took the vaccine and then got the booster is why she was not extremely ill. So I'm grateful for that. So yes, hi Janetta, good to see you. Good to see you. I say see you, I can't see you. But you all know what I mean. Good to have you with us. Yeah. For those who may not know, Janetta McGinsey is the First Lady of Family Community Church here in Fresno. That's actually Pastor and I's home church. And they commissioned us to start our church, the White Christian Fellowship. So, yeah. So, Habari Gani. This is the 5th day of Kwanzaa. And so, someone has already put the response to Habari Gani in the chat. Others, you can do the same. What is today's principle? What is today's principle? Habari Gani. Yeah. And April Jackson put in already. Purpose, that's right. Nia. Purpose. Purpose. And so let's go with, again, giving honor and respect to Dr. Karenga, the founder of Kwanzaa, the father of Kwanzaa. He says, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Our collective vocation, collective, working together to build our community, to restore our community, restoration. When it comes to purpose, particularly when I'm talking to young people, I have something, and I say it all the time. If you've heard me speak to young people, you've probably heard me say this. Because I believe it to be true, that every one of us has a purpose in life. There is something for each of us to do that no one can do but us, right? There's something that no one but me even could have birthed Chunyandu, Ayadaficha, Wachuku, right? It took Henry and I to do that. I almost said just that, but that. So we have to recognize, and I think it's so important, especially when we, as young people, even as adults, are feeling hopeless, are feeling depressed, to recognize that we have a purpose. And we have a purpose for ourselves, for our community, to build, to restore. And there's something that only you can do. And if you're not here to do it, that thing doesn't get done. So as difficult as it may be in any moment, focus on you have a purpose. Nia, you have a purpose. So important. You're all so important. And we need to hear that sometimes. We need to say it to ourselves sometimes. You know, I talk a lot about our Saturday Cultural School. I'll be sharing something about it with you today, but our the director of our ministry, the pastor of our church, my beloved Reverend Dr. Ifeanyi Chukwu H. Oputa. Most of you know him as Henry Oputa. He has gone and brought back his traditional name, Ifeanyi Chukwu. He wrote a song for our Saturday school children, and the lyrics are, I am somebody, I am somebody, I am somebody, I am a child of God. The name of the song is A Child of God, I am a child of God. And then they sing, I am responsible, I am intelligent, I am hardworking, I can do anything, I can be anything, I am somebody, I am a child of God. And we've had our Saturday school children come back to us and tell us stories about having sung that song over and over and over, that even as young adults, that will come back to them and encourage them. Yes, it made me cry. So it's so important. Nia, purpose. You have a purpose. You are important. Every one of you. So let's light our Kwanzaa candles. Unity is already lit. Kujichagulia, Ujima, Ujama, Nia. So I posted about an hour or so ago that I wanted to tell you about an art form that was developed based on Kwanzaa. It is a poetic art form. Do any of you know what it is? If you do, put it in the chat. If any of you know what that art form is, it's a poetic art form. I'd actually forgotten about it. And this year, our last Saturday school term, as I was teaching the children the principles of Kwanzaa, and I think it was on Kuumba when we were doing creativity, I wanted them to do something creative. So I thought, because one of the things I love to do with children is help them write. And so I thought I would have them do a poetic art form. How many of you know the Japanese poetic art form? Okay, if you know it, put it in the chat. I love you too, cousin. Yeah, put it in the chat. What is the poetic Japanese art form? If you put the name of it in the chat, and also if you can, what is the structure? So I'm going to start with that, and then because I think we're all familiar with that, and then I'll tell you about the African American poetic art form that was created based on Kwanzaa. Based on Kwanzaa. Anybody know? I'm looking to see if anybody put something in the chat. Chocolate City, who are you? Put your name there so I know who I'm talking to. They said, hey, cousin. I'm like, hey. But I have 700 of you. Who knows that African American, the Japanese art form? See, I'm going to look and see if there's maybe something down here I don't see. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you. So the Japanese art form, poetic form, is haikus. I know you all are going, oh yeah, haikus. I know haikus. Dr. Claus, how are you? Been a long time. It's been a long time, my dear colleague. So the Japanese art form, haikus, as most of you know, it's 3 lines only, 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, and then 5 syllables in the third line. So I worked with my children in the Saturday Cultural School to create haikus about Kwanzaa. And you have to understand, they range in age from, what, about 6 and 7 up to like 12 or 13. And they did an amazing job doing Kwanzaa haikus. So I was sharing that with my daughter, who is, I'm about to do a mama brag here, an award-winning poet and writer. And she said, oh, well, next time you might want to do Kwansabas with them. I was like, huh? Kwansabas? She says, yes, you know Kwansabas, you've written one. And she had to remind me that in 2008, I actually wrote a Kwansaba. So listen to it, Kwansaba, right? Nguzo Saba, 7 principles, the 7 candles, right? Saba, Kwansaba, Kwanzaa and 7, right? Kwanzaa and 7. So a Kwansaba, they were developed, I'm not quite sure when, I believe in the 60s, but by an African-American poet whose name is Eugene B Redmond. Eugene B Redmond. And the Kwansabas are very specific, very specific. They have to celebrate family, African-American culture, and a praise poem. So you can't write a Kwansaba about grief. I mean, you can, but then it's not really a Kwansaba. About grief or sadness or, things, anger. It's a praise poem. Now, the other thing about it, there are 7 lines in the Kwansaba. Only 7 lines. Not 5, not 8, but 7 lines. So you see the Saba, the 7. And there are 7 words only in each line. 7 lines, 7 words in each line. And every word, listen to this, cannot exceed 7 letters. Wow. That's a Kwansaba. A praise poem of African American culture and history. 7 lines in the poem, 7 words in each line, and no word can exceed 7 letters. So it can be less than 7 letters, but not more than. So what I'd like to do for you today is read some Kwansabas. I'd like to read some Kwansabas. young man who I believe just recently moved to San Francisco from New Jersey. His name is Saeed Jones. Saeed Jones, and he wrote a Kwansaba that I'd like to read. And I love it because he wrote it for the children that he was working with, teaching them um, writing, teaching them writing. And I tell you, you know, I talked yesterday and the day before about underestimating our children. When I tell you with the Saturday school, we're on Zoom, right? And I taught them what a Kwansaba was. I'm not a Kwansaba, but a haiku was. We created a haiku together, and then I gave them like 7 or 8 minutes to write a haiku. And when I tell you those babies came up with some haikus, you know, they'll do it. And they were quiet, just sitting there writing. I was so happy. And he chose Kwansabas because they have a structure, but it's not so elaborate that it's scary, right? One of the things he said is that one little girl, when he told them that the words couldn't be more than seven letters, that she pulled out her word cards and started pulling out words that only had 7 letters in it, right? So they get creative if we believe in them, right? If we believe in their competency and their intellect. And yet it's still challenging, right? Because maybe the word you want has 8 letters. And so therefore you have to find another way to express what you're trying to express. The other thing he said that I thought was really, really good is that it's because it's a poem of praise. He said oftentimes young people are led to write about sadness or anger or love, those extreme sadness, right? And this forced them to write a song of praise, right? About themselves, right? So he wrote a Kwansaba for the young people he was working with. And it's entitled To Polaris. And again, this was by Saeed Jones. Not even day can outshine you, star. Lost in skyward gaze, I see you and think of wayward ships. Your light, our guide home, away from world's edge again and again. But aren't you tired? Explain your faith in us. Tell us what you see in our dark voyages. That was a Kwansaba. And then I found another one, just, you know, doing research and looking for some Kwansabas that I really liked. And it's from Don Lamy. It goes like this. I stretched my arms to touch Chioma. She says no. Still 3 more months. Come back to see what's in store. But now, be kind and walk away. Yes, walk, but not too far away. For when the month of harvest comes, you will reap, my dear, many tons. And I don't have a title for that one. I don't have a title. So when I wrote my Kwansaba, what happened today was I asked my daughter, I said, do you have a Kwansaba I could read today? And she told me she does. Here comes my advertising. She does have a Kwansaba in her book, Rummage. Rummage, you can get this on Amazon. Ife Chideni A Oputa. It now goes by Ayarficha. And she has a Kwansaba in there. We both thought, no, that's not the one to read for this year's Kwanzaa. But then she reminded me of a time when I was with her in Washington, D.C., uh, when she was going to Howard, and a friend of theirs was going to be moving away, this beautiful young lady. And she had actually done my hair for me. She'd retwisted my locks. And so we had a deep conversation. We had some really deep conversations. And what the friends were doing, because this is actually called Expressions of Grace, Kwansabas for Anais. I might have to ask her if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but Anais Booker. And so various friends, because many of them were writers, they were poets, they would go to poetry readings and poetry slams all the time in New York and DC. And they all wrote Kwansabas for her. And so this is a book of Kwansabas, a chap book is what they call when they put things together like this. By they, I mean writers, young, different writer. So I'm going to read a couple of the Kwansabas from here. And again, they were all to this young woman, this friend of theirs, who was leaving. And this was their gift to her. How beautiful is that? This is from Melani. You are a warrior. And you have to excuse my language in here. This is someone else's writing. You are a warrior, a sister soldier, suited for rolling heads and kicking ass. You could head a nation, calmly, capable. Yet you prefer to grace us with an energy divine, humble, fiery, and sweet. You allow select few entry into your heart. You are warrior, but friend first. That was from Melani. And now I'm going to read the Kwansaba actually from I Adaficha. That's my daughter who kind of took the lead in curating this chapbook of Kwansabas. So this is from Ife Chideni. I at the time, Ife Chideni, now I Adaficha. Carve your shelter in our faith's stone. Let our love knit the warmth wrapped round places exposed, left open to life's chills. Adorn your essence in praise. Let our pride bolster your step. You, modest sage, beauty, peace, comfort, friend. We will never tire of gracing your memory. Kwansaba for Anais. And then they ended the chapbook, and the page is entitled Words of Wisdom. And it's the Kwansaba that I wrote for this beautiful young lady, who quite frankly I had just met. But you know, something happens when you sit together, black girls, and we get our hair done, right? That develops a particular relationship. And she reminded me, because when I asked my daughter, she found the chapbook, and she was like, Mother, your poem is called Kuji Chagulia. I didn't even remember that. How funny is that? Self-determination. And I remember the conversations that led me to write this Kwansaba for this young lady. So, my Kwansaba for Anais. It's called Kuji Chagulia. You decide who you are, not others. No need to take on his ways. Loved ones may speak out of turn. Forgive. Don't accept if it's not so. We have faith in your forged path. Destiny is in your control. Believe it. You can do all strong through him. So that's my Kwansaba for Ananias that I wrote in probably 2008. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. I know you would have thought I would do this tomorrow, with just Kuumba, which is creativity. But tomorrow I want to do some performances for you and show some creativity. And I just wanted to share with you an African American poetic art form. And again, it's called Kwansaba, Kwansaba. Saba, like the seven that you hear repeated in Kwanzaa, the seven candles, the seven principles Nguzo Saba. You'll hear that a lot. And the Kwan from harvest, fruits of the harvest. And again, this was created by Dr. Edmond, I believe. I'm going to look again, make sure I'm saying his name right. He is currently in St. Louis. This is St. Louis, but he's an educator, a writer, and he is the one that developed Kwansabas as an homage to Kwanzaa. Redmond, Eugene B Redmond, is the person who created Kwansabas. He was part of the Black Arts Movement. I talked about that earlier this week. I have siblings that were involved in the Black Arts Movement, West and East. And so that's a significant movement in the African American art experience. So if you're coming in, just come in. I read several Kwansabas for my followers and my listeners, and I'm glad you were here to hear them. I will be back tomorrow. We will, of course, do our Harambes before we close out. And I appreciate you all joining me and being with me and celebrating Kwanzaa in various ways and in various forms. Let's do our Harambes. Remember, Harambe meaning let's all pull together. And we do it Saba 7 times, right? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Harambe! 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 Thank you all. Have a good evening. Be safe, rest, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be doing some performances for you, some storytelling, not necessarily from a book. All right? See you tomorrow. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, celebration. Kwanzaa, Kwanzaa, celebration.